You are listening to the Amber AF podcast. I'm probably going to spill some tea. Definitely going to talk a lot. So buckle in, have a seat, and let's get into it.
Oh, wow. Happy Halloween, everybody. So, fun fact, I was supposed to be on the road with Moon Taxi this weekend. And actually the day that I recorded the Halloween episode, you could probably hear it. I thought my allergies were messing with me. And as it turns out, it was a cold, but it was like literally just in my nose. Like the rest of me feels fine, but it's like literally just in my nose. I'm starting to feel better, but long story short, I ended up not going on the road with the guys this weekend. And I'm incredibly bummed about it. I had a costume and everything. Ugh. But that being said, one of my friends gave me the idea to do a bonus episode for Halloween. So I reached out to some of my friends and asked them to send me some scary stories if they have them, or if they have their list of movies that they like. And just send them to me, send me voice memos and stuff. So sit down. This might be a little bit of a shorter episode, but it's a bonus. So have fun. I know I'm about to have fun listening to these. All right, let's get started. Okay, so the first spooky story that I have for you comes from dear sweet Samantha Zaruba. By the way, go follow her on Instagram and on TikTok. It's at Zaruba. That's Z as in Zulu, ARUB as in boy, A, _art. So Zaruba _art. She does a lot of like mixed media work, and like colorful nude figures and stuff like that. Really cool artist and an even cooler person, so go check her stuff out. But let's hear what scary story she has for us today.
When I was 13, my friends and I were playing the Ouija board on New Year's Eve.
Oh no.
And we weren't the type of kids to drink or anything like that, so completely sober. And all of a sudden, the Ouija board started going crazy, like to the point where you could definitely tell no one was moving it.
No.
And it kept spelling out devil, kept saying it was the devil.
Mm-mm.
And like my stepdad walked downstairs and it spelled out asshole over and over again. And it was just going crazy. And then all of a sudden, the little pointer thing, we took our hands off of it once it said it was the devil. And all of a sudden, the pointer, no joke, just shot off the table towards my friend. Like, I've never picked up something so quickly and goodbye. I cleared it or whatever the hell you're supposed to do. But the little pointer of the Ouija board shot off the table. My hand to God. It was the craziest, scariest shit in my life. And then later, when I was 19, that same Ouija board told me and my college roommate that it was this girl that had killed herself over the weekend, and we had to say goodbye to her mom for her. So don't fuck with the Ouija board ever.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for sharing that. I don't know that I would have kept the Ouija board after that first time. Like, I don't know. You're more brave than I am. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. I don't know the story behind it. I just know that like my dad's nickname is Ouija. And I want to say it's because like when he was a kid, they were playing with one and some like freaky stuff happened and he like got scared or something. I don't know. I don't mess with them. I don't know. I watched I don't know if you've ever seen that show Charmed, but like the very first episode of Charmed, they bring their Ouija board, which they call the spirit board, because I'm sure Hasbro or Parker Bradley, whoever it is, they probably have the copyright on it. But anyway, they brought the spirit board down, and it basically tells them that they're witches. And so, like, in that scenario, if I had a Ouija board that was to tell me, hey, by the way, you actually have superpowers. Okay, I could get behind that, but Ouija board spelling devil, no thanks. I'm glad you're okay. That sounds frightening. Thank you for sharing. Our next up is the wonderful Janelle Means, who's going to give us a list of her favorite scary movies, and I'm sure it's going to like jog my memory of movies that I didn't mention in the scary AF episode before this one. So let's hear what she's got to say.
I have so many favorite scary movies. It fluctuates for me as far as which is my favorite genre. Sometimes scary movies are my favorite, and then sometimes suspense movies are my favorite. Fair. But I'm always a big scary movie girl. But I love Carrie. Because I love the message in that movie.
They're all gonna laugh at you.
I also love the Conjuring series. The Exorcist was brilliantly done. It's scary, but I mean I love it. And The Shining, definitely that was great. I mean, of course, with Stephen King, Carrie, Stephen King, it's all great. So I think a lot of his stuff is going to be up there for me. I'm trying to think. Another one for me is The Others that stars Nicole Kidman.
Yes.
That's a great one. The Others is great. So yeah, those are some of my favorite scary movies. And I'm probably forgetting a lot of them, but yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah. Janelle, I swear, you're such a great human. First of all, go check out Janelle Means everywhere. She's so wonderful. She's always performing around town. She's always like just such a great energy to be around. And it makes me happy to know that she also really loves scary movies and loves Stephen King stuff too. I too love Stephen King very, very much. Man. And then, okay, so you mentioned The Others. The first time I watched The Others, I hated it. Like, I was a kid, though. I was definitely, I had to be like under the age of 12, but probably close to it. But anyway, I saw that movie the first time and I was like, oh, this is so dumb. Ugh, whatever. I don't like it. But then I literally went back a year later and watched it again. I was a little bit older, a little bit wiser. And I really loved that movie. And I still to this day really love that movie. I think I really like how like dreary it is. It's like, okay, so for anyone who hasn't seen The Others, it's a period piece. And I want to say it's set in somewhere in England, but like in the countryside during World War II. And Nicole Kidman and her two children, live in this massive mansion, really. They've got some maids and groundskeepers and stuff, but it's really just the three of them that are there. And her husband is off to war. Her children, however, are sensitive to light, like sunlight. So the whole house, like they've got all the windows covered and all of that stuff, and they lock every door behind them as they move from room to room so as to not let any additional light in because the kids are allergic. But eventually they feel like their house is haunted. They're freaking out. And it's like everything's kind of gray. There's this like mysterious fog that just like won't go away outside. And eventually, and like they never you never see them leave the house. But they start to think that the house is haunted. And that's all I'm going to say, because even though this movie is like probably 20 years old at this point, I don't want to ruin it. As much as I want to spoil it for you, I'm not going to. But it's really good. I really enjoyed that one. Once I actually sat and watched it again. Another movie that I have forgotten about that you reminded me of, Janelle, was The Skeleton Key. Um, it is set in like Bayou, Louisiana, somewhere, and um, this who is that? Goldie Hawn's daughter. I can't remember her name right now, but in real life, Goldie Hawn's daughter plays this woman who uh, is a caretaker. Like she does assisted living things and all that stuff. And so she sees an ad in the paper to go be an assisted living helper for this elderly couple, um, like in the middle of nowhere, Louisiana. So she takes it because she can live there and do the work. And she would be making great money. And the guy was really transitioning into, getting ready to pass away and stuff. So she goes, and of course, things aren't all what they seem to be. That house also seems haunted, but then maybe she's being cursed with like a voodoo hoodoo curse. All of these things. And yeah, I'm not going to ruin that. I kind of want to ruin these movies for y'all. Okay. I'm going to give you 6 seconds to decide whether or not you want me to ruin this. And if not, just fast forward a little bit until I'm not talking about the Skeleton Key anymore. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so she goes to this house. She's working with this elderly couple. But there aren't any mirrors in the house. And she's like, why don't we have any mirrors? And they're like, we just don't like them. They freak us out. We're not a fan. And so she has a mirror for herself, but eventually, like, I don't know, it's just weird happenings that are happening at this house. And long story short, because it's been a minute since I've seen it and I can't remember every single step that happens, but long story short, the elderly couple is actually possessed by this old black family, like that they were slaves on this land before this other family lived there. And they used hoodoo to curse their owners and take over their bodies so that they could live forever. So they've been hopping and jumping into new bodies every however many years. And so they wanted to jump into her body so that they could live on again forever. And it was really cool how they did it. I thought it was well done. Demystifying, or not demystifying, that's not the word I want to use, but like taking some of that like voodoo lore, some of which is based in the religion, but admittedly I don't know enough about the voodoo and hoodoo religion to truly say, wow, they did a great job with this or not. All I can say is from an entertainment aspect, it was entertaining. It was great. Kate Hudson. No. Is it Kate Hudson? Yes? Hold on. Let me get on the Google box. Let's see. Who is Kate Hudson? Yeah. Yeah, it was her. Kate Hudson. Yeah. That person. Anyway, great movie. Loved it. Another movie, because you mentioned suspense. My mom turned me on to this one, The Bone Collector, with Denzel Washington and Angelina Jolie. That is a really great suspenseful movie. I think I'm a really big fan of the movies that are like gray. Like if it's horror, I really like the movies that are like gray for most of the time, because it's like my soul. And another one, let's see, Dr. Sleep. You mentioned The Shining. So Dr. Sleep came out 2 years ago, I think before lockdown, like the year before lockdown. Dr. Sleep came out, and it is the like sequel to The Shining. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. I think it's really great. It takes off like Danny. You find Danny to be a 30 or 40 something year old alcoholic who's just trying to numb his light so that he isn't psychic anymore. because he doesn't want to see scary things, and the hotel, the Overlook, is still calling to him. And then he meets another, like a young woman who actually she's a little girl. He meets a little girl who also has the shining in her, and he has to protect her, and it's a good movie. Also, Dark Water with Jennifer Connelly. That movie, man. Okay, so that movie is sort of loosely based on a true story of this woman who lived in this apartment complex. I want to say it was originally like a Japanese horror movie, but then since like adapted for like American audiences and stuff. But Jennifer Connelly is a single mother, and she finds this apartment, the only apartment she could find within her budget, within the school district that her daughter was attending, so that she could keep custody of her kid. But it's a pretty slummy apartment, and in this apartment, eventually there's like this leak that just keeps reoccurring, but it gets bigger and bigger, and the ceiling, like where the leak is happening, it's like getting darker and dingier and moldier and just gross over time. And as this is happening, her daughter keeps playing with this little ghost girl and mentioning this little ghost girl. And Jennifer Connelly is trying to like ignore it, but even she is seeing things, getting into the elevator and like feeling like someone's holding her hand, but nobody's there. And then eventually starting to see hallucinations of this little girl and her mom. And as it turns out, when she lets the little girl kind of lead her to what she's trying to show her, she finds out that the little girl, her parents, like, I guess they left her in the apartment, and she like and abandoned her, but then she like got out of the apartment and went up to the roof and like was playing around the water tanks at the top of the roof and fell in and like drowned, and they never found her body. So when Jennifer Connelly gets up there and finds the body, like, 20 or 30 years later, then they're like, oh my God. And you think that's the end of the movie, except the ghost kid is like, yeah, but like, I need a mom. Your daughter has a dad. I need a mom. And so the ghost and Jennifer Connelly make the decision that Jennifer Connelly is going to die and like be a ghost mom in this apartment. And like the little girl was like okay with it, because I don't know why. She was like, I would have been pissed if some ghost took my mom, but whatever. But yeah, it was a good movie all in all. And it too was another like dark, kind of dingy scenario. Okay. So speaking of scary apartment stories, my good friend, my dear friend, Amanda Broadway, sent me a story about when she first moved here to Nashville or whatever. She was like in a suburb outside of it. But before we do that, I just want to say Amanda Broadway is one of the most hardworking, talented people I've ever met in my entire life. I'm in her band as a background vocalist, and our next show, if you are in the Nashville area, is November 3rd at the High Watt. And the new single, The Slowdown, which she wrote as kind of like a tribute to what it was like being in lockdown and forcing ourselves to slow down. That comes out on November 5th. So yeah, check her out, Amanda Broadway Band. Check all of her stuff out. In the meantime, though, before you do that, let's hear what she has to say.
When I first moved to Nashville, I moved into an apartment complex in Madison, Tennessee. And not too long after I moved in there, I started having this recurring nightmare.
Yikes.
And it was a girlish, ghostly figure who was hovering above me, above my bed while I was sleeping.
Nope.
She was parallel to me, like on her stomach, and she had long hair hanging down around her. I couldn't really see her face. But I just felt this really heavy, strong presence that was sort of locking me in. I felt paralyzed, almost like a night terror.
No.
I couldn't move. I felt like I was in between being awake and asleep, and I couldn't shake myself out of it. I couldn't move, and just felt frightened. And that dream happened multiple nights in a row, and where I was getting, I got scared of going to sleep after a while.
Yeah.
And then I eventually talked to some people about how to maybe cleanse the apartment, and
Smart.
eventually I was able to get the dream to go away. But it was super creepy, and it got me wondering if something maybe hadn't happened in that building, and there was maybe some sort of young woman haunting my apartment.
Yeah, dude. The answer is yeah, your apartment probably was haunted. The other answer I have, actually, I talked a little bit about this in the Scary AF episode that came out a couple days ago. It sounds like you were experiencing sleep paralysis. And I will talk more about it on another episode, but like I do practice lucid dreaming, and one of the stages of sleep, or rather, one of the uh steps to getting better at lucid dreaming is being able to recognize when you're within that sleep paralysis part, which is what it sounds like you were in. And so a lot of times our brains kind of will trick us because we're half asleep and half awake. Our bodies are paralyzed, so we can't move because it's actually like a defense mechanism that our bodies and our brains have of like paralyzing us while we're asleep so we don't like get up and run around. That's why if you are a somnambulist or a sleepwalker, like it's a sleep disorder because your body actually shouldn't be able to get you up and about. So when you were seeing this like scary chica just like hovering over you in that way, you were, it sounds like, and I'm no doctor, this is just opinion and based on like my experiences and what I've read, but like it sounds like your brain was like dreaming, but your body wasn't quite there. So like you were just in that in between no man's land, and you saw it. Now, my spooky ass likes to think that all of it is real. So I like to think that there are ghosts or like entities or beings or whatever that like kind of live in that realm, and we can't see it unless we are in that sleep paralysis kind of mode before we go to sleep, and then we see it. I think all of those things are true. So sounds scary, but I'm glad you're okay. um yeah, that's all. Okay. So um the manager from Trigger Hippy, the band I'm in, his name is Brian Diamond, the man, myth, the legend, wonderful human. He actually sent me a scary story of his own from all the way over across the pond. I'm sorry, that was horrible.
This took place about 30 years ago. I was living in London and traveling up to Scotland with my girlfriend at the time. We checked into this hotel that was an old castle. And the people at the front desk, when we checked in, said, some of the rooms here are haunted.
Oh.
Of course, I didn't believe any of that. And
Brian.
We went up to our room, went out and got some dinner, came back late, and it was time for bed. Got into the bed, and my girlfriend was out cold very quickly.
Naturally.
And I was up thinking about what they told us earlier in the evening. And just then, as I'm sitting in the room, I could hear what sounded like someone with a stick scraping the wall all the way around above our heads and back to where they started.
No.
And all I could think of was, there must be a mouse or something crawling through the walls. Only problem was the area where the sound was coming from was the top part of the wall, which was all solid stone.
Nope.
A ghost? I don't know. You be the judge.
I will be the judge. And Brian, it was a ghost, and I'm so glad you're okay because that sounds frightening. And yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a ghost. I don't know how I would feel about that. I don't think I've like stayed at any hotels that were haunted. My mom told me about one time she stayed at this one hotel that was like an old slave plantation, and it was literally like called like the plantation at such and such or whatever. And she swears that one night someone kept pulling her sheets off her bed. And I was just like, ooh, I'm glad I wasn't with you for that trip because no thanks. Mm-mm. I'm the blanket hog, no ghost, me. So anyway, yeah, that sounds scary, Brian. I at one point had creatures in my crawl space, but I thought that they were like home invaders or like home intruders or whatever. And it took a long time for me to realize, no, I just have like possums and raccoons in my crawl spaces. So that was a fun thing to find. But thank you for sharing. I appreciate it, Ryan. Michelle Brooke, sweet Michelle Brooke, actually sent me a list of her favorite scary movies. So I wanted to play those. But before I do, gotta plug her too. Not only is she just like a powerhouse singer, but she's actually been working on kind of like a more subtle, sensual version of what she's been doing musically. And I'm really excited for you all to hear it. I'm excited to hear it too. But yeah, so make sure you go follow her on everything. She's at the Michelle Brooke, Brooke. She's just a phenomenal human and also a phenomenal songstress. So just stay tuned on that, but follow her on everything in the meantime. Yeah. So let's hear what she has to say.
Hey, Amber AF listeners. This is Michelle Brooke.
Hey, girl.
Popping in just to tell you a couple of my favorite Halloween or scary movies. First up, we've got A Quiet Place. Obviously, you don't even know me, but
I know
I
you.
think John Krasinski can do no wrong.
He can't.
I love the story. I love the sound production. The acting is fantastic. Very believable, even though it is science fiction. We love a story that makes you laugh and cry. And yes, that is why I stan A Quiet Place Part 1. I have not seen Part 2 yet.
Part 2 is lit.
I also love the movie Hush. And this is kind of a lesser known movie, surprisingly. I think Netflix is still, you can still find it on there. It stars one of my favorite actors, John Gallagher Jr. First heard of him from the musical Spring Awakening. Yes, he is a triple threat. He does it all. And he's also in Newsroom with Jeff Daniels.
Okay.
I'm also a big fan of the Paranormal Activity movies.
Yes.
Don't at me.
I won't.
They are fun. They are just good, clean fun. They get your heart rate up. They're spooky. I think that what you can't see is sometimes scarier than what you can see.
Agreed.
So, yeah, love the Paranormal Activity movies. Also a fan of the Cloverfield movies. 10 Cloverfield Lane with John Goodman and, again, John Gallagher Jr.
Yes.
Also, the first Cloverfield was definitely very entertaining. I think they came out with something that did not do so well on Netflix, like about another thing about the Cloverfield. Anyway, I'm a sucker for those stories. Found footage films can be pretty fun.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, so those are some of my favorite guilty pleasure movies that I usually watch whenever they're on. Oh, and Signs.
Yes.
I love Signs. Don't love Mel Gibson and what he says, but I can turn the other cheek for the movie Signs. When Joaquin Phoenix puts the foil on his head, please.
Right.
Anyway, happy Halloween. Celebrate safely, everybody. Love you, Amber.
Love you, Michelle. Also, it's Contaminated. I love that movie. Oh my God. Good call on all of those. Holy cow. Yeah, as I was listening to your movie picks, I had the same thought that you then verbalized shortly thereafter, which is that it seems like you really like the movies where maybe the scary thing is actually not seen. Like maybe you see glimpses of it here or there. Have you seen what's the Sandra Bullock movie? Bird Box. Bird Box is another one of those in a way. I did like that movie. I was not annoyed. I am somebody that likes to see the horror, but I prefer it to be like practical effects where they've like actually designed by hand costuming and makeup and all of this stuff. And maybe they use CGI as like supplementary effect, but it's not the thing that is being relied upon. That's kind of where I'm at. But I totally understand what you mean about like sometimes the thing you can't see is the scariest. Like, yeah, you're not wrong there at all. Paranormal Activity movies. There was one where it was like there were two little girls, and that one I was like petrified for them. And I don't really get scared during movies often, but I definitely was like nervous at the very least. I was like, oh my God, are these little babies gonna like get possessed and shit? Because that would be scary. Oh no. Yeah. But thank you for sharing those. And yes, happy Halloween to you too. Our last friend for today is drummer extraordinaire Tyler Ritter from Moon Taxi. Super sweet human. He's also like a prince of the darkness. So like he's got a ton of great stories and I want to play those for you now. Take it away, Tyler.
All right, so we're going to start with paranormal stories that I can think of. Two come to mind first off. First one being, we used to take these kind of family trips with our friend group, Christina and I, before COVID and before babies, where we'd go rent a cabin in the woods essentially and just hang out and, do various party favors and have a great time, yada, yada, yada. This one particular time we went for our friend Matthew's birthday to Gatlinburg. And we were staying, I think, in like Sevierville, close to this lake. We had this little cabin. There were probably 10 of us there. And there were some people there that I didn't really know that well, that I got to know very well over the course of that weekend. And we happened to be in the living room of this cabin. We were playing like a card game or something. And I stepped out to go outside and smoke a cigarette on the porch. And when I came back in about 35 seconds later, because I'd heard everybody scream, everybody was just like white. And of course, first thing out of my mouth is, what in the world just happened? Turns out that there was this like little box, like a jewelry box that was on this ledge kind of by the fireplace. And this box had just sort of jumped. No one was around it. It just sort of jumped off and spilled, its contents onto the floor. I think it was just like some coins and some stuff that you would keep in your pockets. But everybody was like extremely freaked out by it. Like to the point where I thought they were all messing with me. And the rest of the weekend, everybody kept coming back to that. And we would, kind of stare at that little box. And I swear every now and then I would see it move out of the corner of my eye. I don't know if I was just paranoid about it from the story that had happened when it jumped off the thing. But there were a few people, one guy in particular, our friend Tony, who like would not even go back into the house for about an hour. He just stayed outside. He's like, I can't deal with this.
I would be Tony.
The second thing that comes to mind is we have cats at home, and I truly believe that two of our cats just see ghosts. We have these two sisters that are just oddballs to begin with, but I'm pretty sure that they just see spirits nonstop. Like the things that they do, they'll just run up and down a hallway and then jump, stare in a corner, and scream at this corner, and then follow. I mean, I don't know what they're following, but they're following some sort of little shadow of some sort around. And for the longest time, I've just kind of thought like, all right, these damn cats, they see ghosts. So that's kind of a once or twice a week thing. The cats will go nuts. I'm like, there's another ghost in the apartment. Okay.
No.
All right, let's talk movies. So
Okay, let's do that.
I made a list
That was scary.
of what I thought would be maybe 3 or 4 like go to, and it wound up being 15 movies that came off. I came to the top of my head at first.
Tyler
in no
understood the
particular order,
assignment.
but this is what I've been watching a lot this season, and some of these I started watching over the summer too. But The Omen, Horror Express, which is an old Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee Hammer horror film. Night of the Demons. The original Halloween is absolutely one of my favorites. I really love the Boris Karloff Frankenstein from the 30s. Really anything with Boris Karloff in it is pretty fantastic. Hereditary.
Yep.
Seance. The Mephisto Waltz. That's a cool one, though, I saw for the first time the other day with Alan Alda. Nice little Hail Satan movie. The Stuff, which is also just simultaneously hilarious.
Okay, I have to pause you. Okay, hold on. I am so glad that I'm not the only person who knows about The Stuff. For those of you that aren't familiar with The Stuff, I recommend you look it up immediately. It is set in is it the 80s? I think it's the 80s. I don't know. I'm someone who saw this as a teen, but it was definitely like a throwback movie. So basically there's this new substance that looks like the marshmallow goo that you can buy, but it's this new substance that's supposed to like be edible. Like people are eating it in their cereal or just on its own, like it's ice cream, or it's something that can like clean up messes and all kinds of stuff. Like it's literally just like a one-stop shop for like everything. It's called The Stuff. It's this goo. But nobody really knows where it comes from. At least the consumers don't. And it turns out aliens, or maybe it wasn't aliens. I want to say actually it was just like it was in the ground, and like these people, like these miners or whatever, they found it and they were like, oh, okay, yeah, this is great. But it like possessed them. It was like this like weird sentient being that possessed them and encouraged them to like manufacture it in mass quantities around the world. So that it could kind of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers you. And I don't know. I'm not explaining this very well. But trust me, you got to watch it. It's campy, it's kitschy. It's technically not good, but it is hilarious. And in terms of that like cheesy horror from like the late 70s, early 80s, tons of practical effects. Like so great. So check it out. Okay, Tyler, you can continue.
Beelzebooth, which is a Mexican horror film, which is absolutely terrifying. I put both House of Waxes on this list because the Vincent Price one and the new one are pretty different from one another, but they're both really great. Summer of '84, Haunt, which is about a really terrifying haunted house experience. It's a new one. House of the Devil, and Witch. And now that I think about it as I'm looking at this list, there's a series of movies. The name is escaping me. I'm going to have to look this up real quick. We just watched them on Shudder. I think it's called Hell House. Yeah, I believe it's called Hell House. There's 3 of them, and it's sort of a found footage type thing like the Blair Witch. But all 3 of those Hell House movies are absolutely terrifying and worth a watch. Let's talk about... So, like, Halloween memories. Like, my favorite memories are honestly recent. We always did Halloween pretty well when I was a kid growing up, but my wife and I and our group of friends, same group of friends that, do these like little family trips. We started doing Halloween trips 3 or 4 years ago, and we would do a big group costume. We started out doing it in New Orleans, and we didn't really have a big theme, but we went to New Orleans, had a great time, and then the next year we did Savannah, Georgia, which is, the most haunted city in America. And we spent 3 or 4 days down there, did a bunch of ghost tours. And then for Halloween night, we did a full-on Addams Family group costume.
I think I've seen that.
My favorite of these, though, was the year after we went to Salem, Massachusetts for 4 or 5 days. And I had never been up there. Actually, none of us had been up there. And that place is absolutely incredible. It's like Halloween capital of the world. Halloween night was like Mardi Gras without all the drunk people. It was just like you go out and you show off your costume, and it was absolutely slam-packed with the most amazing costumes I've ever seen. We did pretty good, too, that year. We went as a group of basically couple costumes of Tim Burton characters. Christina and I were Sweeney Todd and Helena Bonham Carter's character, which is escaping my mind right now. Oh. But we had some people that were Augustus Gloop and Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
And we had Beetlejuice and Lydia from the wedding scene, and Jack Skellington, and the girl from Nightmare Before Christmas, Sally.
Mm-hmm.
Those are definitely some of my favorite recent Halloween memories. Just getting all dolled up and going out on the town and being spooky.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, Tyler, first of all, round of applause. You, sir, understood the assignment, and I appreciate you for that. Thank you for sharing all of those. I've written down a few of the movies that you mentioned because I have not yet seen them, and I knew that you would be a wealth of knowledge of things to check out. So thank you for sharing that. I actually, when you said that you went to Salem for Halloween one time, I had this really crazy flashback memory of a time I too went to Salem for Halloween. I swear I went. The only thing is I have no pictures of this and I don't quite remember who was there. I just know it was in college, and in my head I'm thinking there are certain people that were there, but this might be a Mandela effect thing happening. So I'm a little nervous to ask my friends hey, were you there with me? Did we go there? Did we go somewhere else? What? But I'm almost certain I went. But I was under the age of 21, so I couldn't drink either. And I was such a goody, so I definitely didn't bring anything. Weird how that works. Well, guys, thank you for tuning in to this very special bonus episode of Scary AF, Amber AF, Halloween shenanigans. Let me know if you like these. I really enjoyed hearing from y'all. And full transparency, I hit these people up and they were very kind and sent me voice memos back. But that being said, I think that I would love to do more of these. One of my favorite shows to listen to is The Black Guy Who Tips. This is not a scary show. This is just some other stuff for you to know. So there's this podcast that I've been listening to for, it has to be 10 years at this point, called The Black Guy Who Tips. Rod and Karen. They're a couple, they're married, and they've been doing the show this whole time, except they've been doing at least 5 shows a week for the last 10 years. And then they went to having their own premium network. And so they might do 8 to 12 episodes of podcasts a week. But one episode that they always do is their listener feedback episode, where people can send in voicemails, they can write letters, they can answer polls and things like that. And they literally play them on the episode, and it's kind of an episode for their fans. And I've always loved that episode. So if I can do something like that here, I'd love to. So just let me know what you think. But again, thanks to every single person who contributed to this episode today. Thanks to everyone who is listening. And once again, I hope you are having a safe and fun and spooky Halloween.